started with silence. At first, I didn't notice it. I live in a mid-sized apartment complex in the city. Most neighbors keep to themselves, which is normal. But that week, the building felt off, quieter than usual. Almost eerily quiet. It was 11:58 p.m. when I first heard it. Footsteps in the hallway outside my apartment. Slow, deliberate pacing back and forth. I live on the 3rd floor, and the hallway should have been empty at that hour. I peeked through the peephole. Nothing. The hallway was dark, the flickering overhead lights casting long shadows. No one. My pulse quickened. I waited a few minutes. The footsteps started again. Slow, heavy, back and forth. The next day, I mentioned it to a neighbor in passing. They shrugged. Maybe someone's moving in upstairs. But the apartment above mine had been empty for months. I tried to dismiss it as imagination, but a feeling of unease settled in. By the 3rd night, the footsteps became more precise. They weren't just pacing, they paused outside my door sometimes. Long pauses. I would hold my breath, staring at the door, waiting for something that never came. Max, my dog, stayed close to my legs, growling softly at nothing. I began keeping a bat by my bed. I locked the door every night, twice, even 3 times. I tried leaving lights on. I tried distracting myself with television. Nothing worked. The presence persisted. One night, I heard scratching. Soft at first, then sharper, almost impatient. Came from the door handle, then moved along the frame, testing it. I froze. Max barked low, warning me to stay back. I didn't move for what felt like hours, just listening. I decided to investigate the next day. I knocked on the empty apartment above me. No answer. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. The apartment was clearly unoccupied. No furniture. No signs of anyone living there. Yet the noises continued at night. The paranoia escalated. Every small sound became terrifying. A floorboard creaking, car honking outside. Even my own footsteps sounded wrong, amplified in the dark silence of the apartment. Sometimes I would see shadows move in the hallway, but when I looked, no one was there. I tried recording the hallway with a camera. Nothing. Empty. No movement. But the sounds continued. Footsteps, pauses, soft scraping at the doors. My mind refused to accept it as imagination. Too precise, too deliberate. Eventually, I began noticing changes in my own apartment. Drawers slightly open, objects out of place. Shoes moved. I double-checked the locks every night. Nothing. No one ever entered. But the feeling of being watched never went away. Sleep became impossible. I would lie awake for hours listening. Each step in the hallway, each creak, made me jump. I began pacing at night, trying to catch the source. I never did. Weeks passed. My work began to suffer. I was constantly exhausted, constantly anxious. I considered moving out, but kept telling myself I had to stay. I couldn't explain why. Maybe part of me wanted to know what or who was out there. One night, I woke to the sound of a whisper. My name. Just a faint murmur, almost beneath hearing. My heart leapt. Max growled. The sound came from outside the door, then faded into silence. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. By the 4th week, things became unbearable. The footsteps grew louder, more deliberate, sometimes stopping just outside my door. Scratches increased. The air felt heavier. I would sit in the living room with the lights on, flashlight in hand, waiting for something, anything, to reveal itself. I started imagining things. Shadows on the walls, figures standing at the end of the hallway. Sometimes, I thought I heard whispering inside the apartment, soft, indecipherable, like words just beyond understanding. Max would growl and hide behind me. I could feel my sanity fraying. One particularly terrifying night, I heard a slow, dragging sound across the hallway. Something heavy. I grabbed a bat and crept toward the noise. Every step I took, I could hear the echo behind me, mimicking me. I stopped, heart racing, listening. Nothing. But I knew someone, or something, was there. I couldn't take it anymore. I moved my bed against the wall farthest from the hallway. I avoided walking near the door. I stopped opening the blinds. Yet the sounds persisted. Footsteps pacing, whispering my name, dragging, tapping. Always subtle, always precise, always enough to make my heart pound. Finally, I moved out. I left the building completely, changing neighborhoods. I thought that would end it. But sometimes, late at night, I hear a soft creak in a hallway or a floorboard tapping. I tense. My heart races. And for a split second, I wonder if it's just me or if it's always going to follow me. Even now, I can't shake the feeling that someone is watching. And sometimes, when the building is quiet, when the streets are silent, I can almost hear footsteps, pacing, waiting, just outside my door. I moved into a new apartment about a month ago. The rent was cheap, the building quiet, and I liked it. First, everything seemed normal. No complaints from neighbors, no strange noises. Just the usual creaks of an old building settling at night. I unpacked my boxes, arranged my furniture, and tried to make the place feel like home. Max, my dog, settled into the corner of the living room, occasionally glancing around but otherwise calm. It was the third night that I noticed the first odd thing. I was lying in bed scrolling through my phone when I heard a faint click from the living room. I froze. It sounded like a camera shutter, short, deliberate. I told myself it was my imagination, a combination of my late-night anxiety and the quiet of the apartment. The next morning, I searched the apartment carefully. Nothing was out of place. No cameras, no recording devices, nothing unusual. I shrugged it off and went to work. But the memory of the sound lingered. Every time I passed the living room during the day, I felt a small twinge of unease. That night, the click returned. Around 1:47 a.m., while I was lying in bed, the faint sound echoed again. I pulled back the covers and walked into the living room. The apartment was empty, windows locked, door locked. Max stared at the far corner, low growl rumbling in his chest. My skin prickled. He rarely reacted to anything inside the apartment. Something was wrong. Over the next few nights, the clicks became more frequent. Sometimes they happened while I was cooking, sometimes while I was in the shower. Always faint, always precise, always coming from the living room. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was an old smoke detector, maybe the thermostat, maybe the settling of the floorboards. But the timing was too deliberate, too intentional. And Max refused to lie in his usual spot. He stayed close to my legs, eyes darting to the corners of the room. One night, I decided to set up my own camera. A small security camera facing the living room. I wanted proof, just a record, something to show if I needed help. That night, I left the camera running. Around 2:17 a.m., I woke to the familiar click. I checked the live feed. Nothing. No movement. No one in the apartment. Yet the feeling of being watched intensified. I couldn't shake the sensation that someone or something was observing me from just beyond my sight. The following week, I noticed subtle changes in the apartment. My keys weren't where I left them. A mug moved from the counter to the table. Drawers left closed were slightly ajar. Nothing huge. Nothing that couldn't be explained. But enough to make me uneasy. I tried ignoring it. I kept my routine, went to work, tried to focus on life outside the apartment. But the clicks persisted. Sometimes while I was making coffee, sometimes while I was brushing my teeth. Always faint, always deliberate, always too perfect to be random. One night, I woke to a shadow moving across the living room floor. I blinked. Nothing. Max was still at my side, eyes fixed on the corner of the room. I held my breath. My heart pounded. The apartment felt alive. I could sense the presence even when I couldn't see it. I reviewed the camera footage the next day. Empty apartment. No one visible. Nothing out of place. And yet, I knew it had happened. I could feel it. The deliberate pacing of whoever or whatever it was, testing me, watching me, waiting. Weeks passed. My sleep suffered. I started lying awake for hours, listening. The clicks came more frequently now. Sometimes I would wake from a nap to find my shoes moved, a chair slightly out of place. Every time I checked the locks, everything was still secure. No signs of forced entry. Yet the feeling of intrusion never left. Max's behavior grew stranger. He no longer lay in his usual spots. He barked at corners, growled at the empty air, sometimes pacing the apartment with me. I tried reassuring him, tried convincing myself it was just my imagination. But the two of us knew something was wrong. One particularly terrifying night, I woke to a soft whisper. My name, just a faint murmur, almost beneath hearing. My pulse raced. I froze. Max barked low, growled, and stayed pressed against my side. The whisper stopped. The apartment was silent, but my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I started avoiding the living room at night. I slept on the couch with lights on. I double-locked the door, left every appliance unplugged, kept the blinds closed. Still, the clicks persisted. Max refused to sleep. Every time I moved, every sound I made, he reacted as if someone was behind me. Eventually, I tried to leave. I went out for hours, even a full day, hoping the absence of anyone inside would make a difference. When I returned, the apartment felt heavier, more oppressive. The clicks resumed the moment I stepped inside, precise, deliberate, taunting. I tried calling the building management. They laughed it off. No one else had keys. No one else had been in my apartment. They suggested maybe I was stressed. Maybe I was imagining it. But I knew it was real. Too real. Too deliberate. Finally, I moved out. I changed apartments, neighborhoods, even cities. I thought I could escape. But even now, months later, I lie awake at night and hear a faint click. Somewhere inside the apartment. My pulse spikes. My stomach knots. And I can't tell if it's real or if it's just my mind playing tricks on me. Max sleeps beside me now, but even he twitches, sometimes growls at corners, sometimes lifts his head to listen to sounds I cannot hear. I can't shake the feeling that the presence followed me, that no matter where I go, it waits, watching, listening, clicking. I sometimes lie awake, staring at the walls, wondering if it will ever stop, if it's inside the apartment or inside me. And when I hear a soft click in the distance, I jump, my heart pounding, hoping it's just imagination. But deep down, I know it isn't. I've always been a light sleeper, so when I first heard the soft click of a key in the lock of my apartment door, I jolted upright. It was around 2 a.m., and my apartment was supposed to be empty except for me. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Maybe I had left my door unlocked, and someone had just passed by in the hallway. I grabbed my phone and quietly dialed the building security number. No answer. The line was dead. I peered through the peephole. Nothing. The hallway outside was dimly lit and completely empty. I double-checked the lock. It was secure, but the sound of the key, the subtle click of it turning, replayed in my mind. The next night, it happened again. Soft, deliberate, a key turning in the lock. I stayed silent in my bedroom, holding my breath. I didn't hear footsteps. The door didn't open, but I could feel it. Someone had been there. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a neighbor, maybe a maintenance worker. But the building has a strict schedule. Maintenance never comes in the middle of the night. No one else has a key. Over the next week, the events escalated. The key would turn, then pause. Sometimes I would hear faint scraping, as if someone was moving a chair or dragging a bag along the floor outside my apartment. Once I thought I heard whispering, just a low murmur, unintelligible, but clearly deliberate. Sleep became impossible. I started staying awake all night, pacing my apartment, clutching a baseball bat. Max, my dog, refused to leave my side. His growls filled the silence of the apartment. Even during the day, he would stare at the hallway, ears twitching, ready to bark at something unseen. One night, I decided to test something. I set up my laptop to record sound while I slept. Around 3:12 a.m., the familiar key click echoed through the apartment. Then movement, footsteps pacing just outside the bedroom door. I froze, paralyzed. The sound of Max's nails scratching the floor mixed with the footsteps outside. I reviewed the recording the next morning. Nothing. No one was outside the door. The hallway was empty. Yet the sound was there, faint but unmistakable. Someone had been there. The incidents continued. The key turning, soft footsteps, faint scratches. Sometimes it happened while I was in the kitchen. Sometimes while I was on the couch. Always quiet, always precise, always enough to make me question my own sanity. I tried leaving notes for the building manager, asking if anyone had accessed my apartment. They insisted no one had. The keys were accounted for. Security cameras showed no movement in the hallways at night. And yet, I knew someone was entering, watching, waiting. I began documenting everything. Time, sounds, strange occurrences. I noted the exact minute of each click, each footstep, each whisper. Patterns emerged. Always late at night. Always after I had gone to bed. Always when Max and I were alone. Eventually, I moved the bed against the farthest wall from the door. I started sleeping with the lights on. I barricaded the door with a chair at night. Still, the clicks persisted. The scraping, the whispering. Max's growls never ceased. Weeks passed. I was exhausted. My work suffered. I avoided my apartment during the day, afraid of what I might find if I entered. And yet, every time I returned, I was reminded of the intrusion. Items slightly out of place, subtle noises, the faint but unmistakable click of a key. One particularly harrowing night, I was sure someone was inside. I could hear breathing, or what I thought was breathing, just beyond the bedroom door. I gripped the bat, heart hammering. Max barked violently. I slowly opened the door. Nothing. The hallway was empty, but I could feel it. Someone had been there. Eventually, I moved out. I changed apartments, neighborhoods, even cities. I thought it would end. I thought I had escaped whoever or whatever had been entering my apartment. But months later, in a new place, I wake in the middle of the night, and I swear I hear a faint click, a key turning somewhere nearby. Every time it happens, my heart races, my stomach knots. Memories of the night spent pacing, Max refusing to leave my side, and the quiet footsteps just outside my bedroom door come flooding back. I don't know if it was ever someone else, or if the paranoia had gotten into my head. But I know one thing. I'll never feel truly safe in my own apartment again.